Welcome back, dear friends, to Taslima Maya Art. I'm Taz. Thank you for being here. Today I'm excited to be sharing my third ever attempt at a resin bloom as a beginner with this technique. Now, this is a very hard technique to master, so it did turn out unusual but pretty stunning, I think, in its own way. Let me know what you guys think. A warm thank you to my subscribers, viewers and Patreon members. Thank you for supporting my channel. The Let's Resin and Resiners materials and products I use are all listed in the description below. You can find my discount codes and referral links there as well. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm super excited to take you along with me as I create my third ever resin bloom attempt. So we're using Let's Resin 1:1 epoxy resin. I'm popping in equal parts of part A and part B into my cup, and I'll be using my Resiners Dual-Head Mixer for a hands-free, bubble-free mix. Products I'm using are the 1:1 epoxy resin from Let's Resin, a bloom coaster silicone mould, my Resiners vacuum chamber, the Airless, as well as the PurAir there, the air purifying system, and the CurAir, which helps cure your coasters faster. I've used a dual head mixer from Resiners as well to mix up my epoxy, and look how clear that is, crystal clear after using the vacuum chamber. And I'm ready now to check the temperature. And I'm using a digital thermometer to have a look at the temperature. It's 35 degrees Celsius, which is perfect. So I learned by doing. So the previous two attempts I paid a lot of attention on what went wrong, and I realised I need my resin to be 32 degrees to 35 degrees Celsius for it to work for me, and my room temperature needs to be stable. Mine was at 23 degrees Celsius, which was ideal. Now I'm going to be using Let's Resin's Ocean White pigment to do my white, and I'll mix that into the decanted resin there in a little cup there. I'm only adding a tiny little globule, as you can see, because I'm still trying to learn how much resin to how much pigment paste I need, and every brand is different, so it's all trial and error. And I'm just mixing that in. I think this was the best bloom I've done so far to the three I've done. This was my third one. So I got the pigment paste the right opacity, I think, on this one. And I actually maybe needed a little less of the pigment paste. But again, I learn at every attempt. So I'm going to pour my resin in. And although it was 23 degrees, I think it was, it actually does get a bit cooler in the mould because it's spaced out, so it loses some heat, but that's perfectly fine at this stage. I want to say a big thank you to Amy from Resonating Art by Amy, who gave me some really good tips on doing blooms and the confidence to start trying again after my first failed attempt when I used acrylic paint instead of pigment. And yeah, this one's turned out the best so far. I'm just popping any bubbles there. I probably should have sprayed the mould a little bit with alcohol, as that would get rid of any bubbles for, beginners. And I'm popping my white paste, my resin mixed in with my white paste, into a little bag. And I'll be piping this out. So it's a dreaded piping technique that I'm not that good at yet. I think I, along with many beginners at this technique, struggle with how big a hole to cut into the piping bag. And I think in this instance and my previous two attempts, I cut too big a hole. Now you can see the resin that was in that silicone mold was 32 degrees now. So it's time now to add my alcohol inks. They're Let's Resin's orange and purplish red. And I've got these gorgeous little pixie beads. They're tiny for the centre. So I'll pop them into a little pot there and then try and place them in the middle of my resin bloom very, very gently. And they do sink because many additions in resin tend to sink if there's some weight to them. So I'm just going to pour it in, which is easier. And they're absolutely teeny tiny, these. They're lovely. I got them from Temu. I'm checking my resin temperature. Yep, it's 32 degrees. So I'm going to start adding my alcohol ink very gradually. And I've seen so many different artists do this in the last 3 years. I've always loved watching the talented Julie Cuts from Pouring Your Heart Out do her resin blooms and all the different techniques, as well as the amazing Fahima on Zarin Resin Art, art by Nyanika, Tea and Art, and Sherry Vegas, of course, and more recently Kim's Art Alchemy and Resonating Art by Amy and others. And I've always wanted to give this a shot, but I didn't have the products until now, so yeah, I am enjoying it. So I popped in my alcohol inks and they're beginning to spread out, as you can see. And it's all about timing, I find. So as a beginner, timing, having everything ready before you start and in reach, and trying to stay calm and really thinking about each of the steps you need to take. I'm adding a bit more of the alcohol ink between some of the gaps there I've got. And I'm already ready with my white pigment paste mixed up in my piping bag. So I'm just going to wait for this to spread out a little bit longer. So I'll speed this next bit up for you a little so you can see it spread. And I'm getting my little makeshift piping bag ready. It was a thin material, so it wasn't the best really. And when I snipped it, I think I snipped too much of it off, so you can see it kind of almost falling out. It was really difficult to control. And again, like I said, you know, every attempt at this bloom technique is a learning journey for me. And I think next time I'll be much more careful what kind of material I use for the piping bag, and also how much of it I snip. Look at that, it sort of just fell out, didn't it? And I do think this would have been perfect if this little error hadn't happened. But then we live and learn, so it still turns out pretty beautiful. And I'm super happy as a beginner with the technique, getting it to this stage in the third attempt. I think that's fabulous and really quite difficult and a bit fluky as well. So we'll see. So I'm just piping out just lines at this stage because I can't really control it, so I couldn't do anything intricate or any squiggly lines or anything. I really had to kind of just go, you know, putting it down in straight lines as best I could. Now I think if I was to do this again and this thing happened, I would just stop and change bags and just take it out of that bag, put it into another and snip it so that it's not so much coming out and the hole isn't too big. But I think I just wanted to just get this done, and I carried on regardless. But you'll see I've done a bloom since this video and it's turned out far better than this, so you'll see how I've progressed over the few blooms that I have done. I will be posting my failures up for you. I say failures, but they're not too bad, apart from the acrylic paint one, which was super bad. The first one I didn't have any pigment paste, you see. So I will be posting those videos for anyone who wants to see my journey with the resin bloom from beginning to where I am now with the 4 blooms that I've done. So this is a third, and there's one more I've done after this, which I'm super happy with, which will be coming up soon. Now I'm going to take my little dotting tool and just try and elongate the edges because it's gone down as blobs, as you can see. And I'm just trying to curve it in a little bit to give it the chance to kind of move on its own later and have the right shape to it at the very least. Now I'll leave you with some music and you can watch the rest in peace. See you in a moment for the next step. So after an hour or two in my air curing machine with the CurAir, it looks like this, and you can see right through the silicone because silicone's really translucent and white, and if I lift it up to the sky I can actually see right through it, which is brilliant. And I can see it did actually bloom, and I'm super excited. I do know it looks a little bit blobby because I put down too much of my white, but if you hold colours behind it and up to the sky, you can actually see what a backing colour would look like, so you can make your decisions that way. So that's a nice little tip. And I'm going to mix up some black mica pigment from Let's Resin now to put a backing on this, so I can then do the unveiling and see what it looks like on the front. It does look pretty on the back too, doesn't it? So I love the fact that the white has like, it does look like petals, and that's fantastic. It means I'm getting closer and closer to trying to master this technique. So in the next one I do, you'll see what I mean when there's another improvement again. So just adding my mica pigment to a little bit of resin, and I'm going to mix that up and pop it over the top of this in the silicone mold, and then pop it back into the CurAir. I am adding a little bit of black glitter as well there, just to give it some glitz and glamour. Okay guys, it's time for the big reveal. It's the next day and I'm ready to unveil this piece. I can't wait to see it. Okay, so this is my, I think it's my third ever bloom. So let's see what it's like. Okay, so we can see that I've backed it with black mica pigment from Let's Resin. And you can see the other side as well through the mold. They do look a little bit blobby, my white pigment there, but again, I'm learning along the way. So hopefully I will learn a lot of new things with my third ever resin bloom. And I want to say a massive thank you to Resonating Art with Amy, because she's the one who's been helping me try and master these and giving me tips along the way in terms of what I should and shouldn't be doing. So again, this should really peel off quite easily, I imagine. Yep, I got that off. Wow, okay, that's fab. And time for the big reveal. I'm really excited and nervous, and let's see. Ta-da! Wow! Okay! Wow! It's actually better than I thought it would be, and it did petal up, but I do think I put my pigment paste down too thick, and there was a bit too much white, ocean white pigment from Let's Resin in it as well, so it probably needed to be a bit thinner. And I cut the bag a bit too much, and quite a lot came out in one go. But look at this, what do you guys think? I love those in the middle. Oh, I can feel a little tiny lumps, but smooth lumps, but that's lush. There's tiny little pixie beads. And I think next time, I think it's perfect as well with the orange and the orange petals there, and then the pink petals, and then it goes out into the white petals on the edge, and the black really sets that off. The black has got glitter in it. I don't know if you can catch that. It's got glitter in the black, and you can see that. Oh my days, I'm in love with this. This is the best bloom I've ever done, the best resin bloom. I mean, I can acrylic bloom really, really well, and that's super hard to do, but I've never done a resin bloom that's worked really well, and I think this has worked. It's different, it's unusual. It does look like curled petals, doesn't it? Petals curling up on the ends. I'm not sure about that one. But again, it's about learning along the way. And oh my goodness, I can't wait to take some nice glamour shots of this one and show you. But I'm really happy. Thank you so much, Amy, for all the tips you've given me. You're really, really kind and helpful, and I'll link your channel down below. This is the best bloom I've ever done, my third ever attempt, and that's genuinely the third attempt I've ever done. So I am happy with this. I'm super happy with this, actually. I don't think it could have gone better, given I'm a complete beginner. beginner to resin bloom. So yes, it worked. Brilliant. Oh, and don't forget, every Saturday at 5 PM EST, 10 PM UK, I have a collaboration called a Creative Art Collective, so do join us for some great art and some fun in the live chat. Up next is Let's Pour with Patty.